I caught my husband cheating with my sister, and my parents still sided with her. That's not clickbait. That's my life. 6 years of marriage, gone overnight. But if I'm being honest, the story started long before the affair. Maybe even before I was old enough to see what kind of family I grew up in. When my younger sister Brooke called me 8 months ago, saying she was moving back to our hometown, I didn't think much of it. She'd been living in Miami with her long-term boyfriend, and when he dumped her, she came home broke and heartbroken. She said she just needed a soft landing. My husband Ethan and I had a guest room. I wanted to help. Back then, I still believed family meant something. Brooke arrived with 4 suitcases, a sunburn, and a story that didn't add up. She claimed her ex had cheated with men and stolen her savings. I didn't question it out loud, but it smelled like one of her usual dramas. Brooke had always been the kind of person bad things just happened to. My parents called her sensitive. I called her conveniently helpless. Within a week, she'd turned our guest room into a chaos of clothes and perfume bottles. She had no job, no money, and somehow still ordered takeout every night. Ethan, being the fixer he is, offered to help her find work. He manages a mid-sized design firm, and one of his colleagues had just gone on maternity leave. Maybe Brooke could help with admin stuff, he suggested over dinner. I hesitated. At your office? Just part-time. She's family. You trust her, right? I did, or I wanted to. She started working there the next Monday. By Friday, she was already talking about team lunches and inside jokes. Ethan said she was adjusting well. I tried to be happy for them, but something was off. When we were kids, Brooke was always the center of gravity in our house. Every time I got an A, she got attention for trying her best. When she crashed my first car, my parents comforted her. When I got engaged, she cried because it wasn't fair I was leaving her behind. So watching her slide into my adult life like she owned it, it triggered something old. It started small. Ethan mentioning her too often, her texting him memes late at night, inside jokes I wasn't part of. One night, I heard laughter from the kitchen long after I'd gone upstairs. When I came down, they stopped mid-conversation. "Everything okay?" I asked. Brooke smiled too quickly. "Just talking about work." Ethan added, "You worry too much." Maybe I did, but worry was the only thing keeping me from exploding. 2 weeks later, we had a family dinner at my parents' house. It was supposed to be casual. Brooke showed up in a low-cut red dress that would have fit better at a cocktail bar. My mom fawned over her. "You look stunning, sweetheart." Then she turned to me. "You look tired, honey. You working too much again?" Classic. Halfway through dinner, Brooke leaned over Ethan's shoulder to pour him more wine, her hand lingering on his arm. It was subtle, but not for me. I saw his face, guilty, nervous, caught between reflex and fear. And then she laughed, soft and private, like there was a secret between them. I don't remember the rest of the evening, except for my mom's voice saying, "Don't be so serious, Anna. You always were the jealous type." On the drive home, I watched their reflection in the windshield, his hands tight on the steering wheel, her grin from earlier still burned behind my eyelids. When we got home, I asked the question that had been choking me all night. "Are you and Brooke close?" He blinked. "What? She's your sister." That's not an answer. He sighed. "You're imagining things. She's been through a lot. Can you not make this harder for her?" For her. That night I didn't sleep. I lay awake replaying every laugh, every touch, every story my mom told growing up, how I should set an example and be the bigger person. I realized that being the bigger person had always meant swallowing my anger while everyone else did whatever they wanted. The next week, the red flags got louder. Brooke called in sick, but showed up at Ethan's office anyway. His phone buzzed constantly, and when I reached for it once, he pulled it away like I'd tried to steal it. My breaking point came one Friday night. Brooke posted an Instagram story from a restaurant, Ethan's favorite place. 2 wine glasses, his hand in the corner of the frame. She captioned it, "Some people just get me." I stared at that photo until my vision blurred. The next morning, I told Ethan we needed to talk. He said he was busy that weekend, helping Brooke move some things. I told him fine, I'd be waiting when he got back, because for once in my life, I wasn't going to play the bigger person. I was going to get the truth, no matter how much it burned. When he came home Sunday night, his face said everything before he even opened his mouth. Ethan, I asked quietly, how long has it been going on? He didn't even try to deny it. Ethan just closed his eyes, rubbed the bridge of his nose, and said, about 3 months. That was it. No tears, no drama, just quiet confirmation that my entire marriage had been rotting from the inside. With my sister? I said, my voice steady but shaking inside. He nodded once. It wasn't supposed to happen. Right, affairs usually just accidentally fall into bed. He started rambling about how lonely Brooke had been, how one thing led to another. I didn't listen. My brain was somewhere else, replaying all the family dinners, all the times my mom told me to be kind to your sister, she looks up to you. I wanted to scream. Instead, I grabbed my keys and walked out. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't even take my phone charger. I drove to my friend Lena's house, sat in her driveway for 10 minutes, and then finally texted her, "Can I crash with you?" Lena opened the door, took one look at me, and just said, "Oh no." I broke down, not because of Ethan, not even because of Brooke, but because I already knew what my parents would say. I was right. When I told them the next morning, my mom's first words were, "You must have misunderstood." I didn't, I said. He admitted it. She sighed like I'd spilled something on the rug. "Sweetheart, Brooke's been through a lot. Maybe don't turn this into a war. You're both adults. My husband cheated on me with her. She deserves happiness too," Mom said, voice soft but cold. "You can't hold on to anger forever?" That sentence might have hurt more than the affair itself. I filed for divorce 2 weeks later. Ethan moved in with Brooke, which meant my parents suddenly became her biggest supporters again. "They're in love," my mom said, like it was some cosmic redemption story. Meanwhile, I was trying to hold my job together while signing legal documents and sleeping on Lena's couch. Brooke even posted a picture of herself and Ethan at a winery with the caption, "New Beginnings." I didn't comment. I just blocked them both. The divorce was final 6 months later. I sold my car, used the settlement money to move 3 states away, and changed my number. I didn't even tell my parents where I was going. For the first time in my life, silence felt like oxygen. Therapy helped. So did time. I rebuilt everything. New job, new apartment, new circle. I stopped checking their social media, stopped replaying the betrayal like a movie I couldn't quit. A year and a half later, I met someone new. His name's Daniel. He's not dramatic, not charming in the look-at-me way Ethan was, just calm, consistent, and funny without trying. When he says he'll call, he does. When I'm quiet, he listens. It was strange at first, being treated gently. I kept waiting for the twist, but it never came. We moved in together after 2 years. My therapist called it earned stability. I called it peace. Then one afternoon, peace knocked on my door wearing the face of my past. I was working from home when my building's front desk called. "A man's here asking for you. Says his name's Ethan." My stomach flipped. I hadn't heard that name in years. Against every rational impulse, I went downstairs. He looked older, tired, softer around the edges. He smiled like we were old friends. "Hey," he said, "you look good." I folded my arms. "What do you want?" He sighed. "I just wanted to talk. Closure, maybe." Closure, that word people use when they want to dig up the grave they buried you in. "I don't owe you that," I said. He nodded, pretending to accept it. "I know, it's just, Brooke left, about a year ago. She cheated on me with a coworker. I guess I deserved it." I didn't even flinch. "Guess so." He looked at me for a long time, waiting for sympathy I didn't have. "You really moved on, huh?" "Yes," I said, "and I plan to keep it that way." When I turned to leave, he called after me. "You were the best thing that ever happened to me." I didn't look back. Some words are just bait. I thought that was the end of it, but a few weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. Normally, I wouldn't answer, but the area code was my hometown. "Anna?" My mother's voice trembling. "We need to talk." I felt the old irritation rise instantly. "What is it, Mom?" "It's about Brooke." "What about her?" A pause. "She's sick." For a second, I thought she was exaggerating again, but she wasn't. Brooke was in the hospital. Kidney failure. They'd been searching for a match for months. Mom's voice cracked just slightly as she said it. You might be the only one who can save her. And just like that, the family who'd erased me suddenly remembered my number. Part 3. My mom didn't call to apologize. She called like we were still a team, like the last few years were a scheduling issue. I told her I'd think about it, then sat on my kitchen floor staring at the wall until Daniel came home. You don't have to do anything you don't want to, he said. Guilt is a language my family taught me early, so I agreed to one video call. My rules, Daniel beside me, laptop angled so I could shut it fast. My parents appeared first. Mom wore her public sorrow face, pained, noble, camera-ready. Dad sat a step behind, quiet like a man hoping silence counts as innocence. How is she? I asked. Brooke leaned into frame. She looked thinner, paler, but her eyes were still sharp. Hey, she said, like we'd argued about borrowed shoes. Mom went straight to the pitch. Kidney failure, dialysis, waiting list, doctors saying timing matters. She spoke in careful facts, as if the betrayal was irrelevant background noise. Then Dad added, We're asking you to consider getting tested. Brooke tilted her head. You're healthy. You've always been the responsible one. It makes sense. There it was. I'm useful, therefore I'm obligated. I ended the call with a vague, I'll look into it, because I wanted information, not permission. The transplant center offered remote screening first. Blood type and labs at a local clinic, then a full evaluation if things matched. They were clear about one thing that mattered more than my mother's tears. Consent. I could stop at any point. I did the blood work. A week later, a nurse called and said gently, You're a strong match. My stomach dropped anyway. The nurse explained the next steps. More testing, a full physical, a private interview to make sure no one was pressuring me, and an independent advocate whose entire job was to protect the donor. She also mentioned risks in plain language, time off work, complications, and the simple fact that I'd be living with one less organ. I thanked her, hung up, and realized my family wasn't asking for help. They were asking for ownership. They hate hearing no from me. Mom's texts started immediately. Heart emojis, prayer hands, spiritual guilt in a pretty font. God brought you back for a reason. Be the bigger person. Family is all we have, and we'll help with expenses. Expenses. Translation. They wanted my kidney and my wallet, neatly bundled. Daniel read the messages and said, They're not asking, they're collecting. I realized I didn't need the perfect speech. People who benefited from misunderstanding me weren't suddenly going to listen. But I did need to say it once, clearly with witnesses, so I wouldn't replay it later and wonder if I'd been unfair. So I set one final call. Mom was already crying when the screen lit up. Brooke sat wrapped in a blanket, performing frailty like it was a role. Dad stared at the table. Mom tried to start with softness. We know we made mistakes. This isn't an apology call, I said. This is a decision call. Brooke's mouth tightened. Seriously? After everything I've been through? I felt calm, not cruel, like a door finally clicking shut. I'm not donating, I said. Silence. Then Mom's tears stopped like someone flipped a switch. Anna, don't do this to us. To you, I repeated. You watched my husband move in with her. You told me she deserved happiness too. You blamed me for reacting like a human being. You didn't miss me. You missed what you could take from me. Dad finally looked up. It's not like that. It is exactly like that, I said, and the answer is still no. Brooke leaned forward, voice thin and sharp. So you're just gonna let me suffer? I'm choosing my body and my boundaries, I said. You have a waiting list. You have options. You do not have me. Mom's voice hardened. If you hang up, don't bother coming back. I almost laughed. I didn't leave. You pushed me out. I just stopped knocking. I ended the call, then blocked every number, every account, every new attempt. I emailed the transplant coordinator and withdrew, asking that my results stay confidential. They replied with a sentence that felt like oxygen. Your decision is respected. After that, nothing exploded. No thunder. Just my apartment, my partner, and a quiet that finally belonged to me. On our next grocery run, Daniel asked what I wanted for dinner. When I said, I don't know. He shrugged. Cool, we'll figure it out. No guilt, no scorekeeping, just normal. I used to think peace meant forgiving people who never changed. Now I know peace is simpler. It's the moment you stop offering your body as a bridge back to their chaos.